All right, let's get started. Welcome. Thank you for attending our first session of 2022. Tonight we're having Patricia Bohls talk about the Be Safe, BeeWhere program. At 6:30, Janine will introduce her after we wrap up our club business. And we'll have question and answer after the presentation, but feel free to type your questions in chat or wait until we unmute the mics at the end. After our club business, we'll probably have some time for some more bee chatter. We got some master beekeepers on here, so. So dues, member dues are due for 2022. Thank you for the 20 or so folks that have already registered. We have sent out an email with links for registering and posted on Facebook. If you did not get the email, hit us up at humboldtbeekeepers@gmail.com and we'll make sure to get you added. Registering online and paying via PayPal is the fastest and preferred method, but we also have the form in PDF format and filling out and mailing it in. So we're a little behind on our PO box. So if people have mailed in checks, we'll get to those, get them deposited, and get you added. The swarm list. So we have all the forms that have been sent for those that want to be added on the swarm list. We're working on an easier method for adding and adjusting this list and plan on having it up before the end of the month. Historically, we added people to the swarm list in the order that the registration came in. This year is the same, but we were planning on rotating the list. So folks on the bottom get moved to the top. We don't know if we'll do this once or twice a week, but we're trying to get it so we can get more people to have an opportunity to collect a swarm. Swag. The swag form on our website was not allowing folks to enter their phone number, so we were unable to get back to them. They're inquiring. I think there was 3 or 4 forms filled out. So that's been fixed. And we have plenty of bee masks available, and we have posted pictures of what they look like on our swag page online. So you should definitely check them out. They're really cool. California Master Beekeeper Program. Registration for California Master Beekeeper Program has been extended till the end of February. Anything Janine or John want to add?
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
I want to add, I think we should advertise that on our Facebook webpage. It should be advertised more. I don't know how to do it. I'm not tech savvy enough, but I think we should advertise it more on our own webpage and on Facebook on the group.
It is on our webpage.
With links?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think it's a wonderful program. We had fun, didn't we, Hank?
Yes, we did. Got my old brain working again.
Right. We also have the HSU classes starting up again in February. And, it's still hard to know whether we'll be able to meet in person, but that is currently the plan. And there'll also be field work, a class devoted to doing field work, which is really good if you've had the beekeeping class before or you're an experienced beekeeper. And I think that the semester-long practical beekeeping class that we have that Dick and I teach is very well-rounded. It includes, your basic honeybee biology and understanding how bees fit into the world of insects. And then it goes on to how to, what the equipment looks like, how to decide what you need, the opportunity to buy bees, and knowing how to work them from season to season, and exploring how to work with the products. I think that the California Master Beekeeping program fits in very nicely, because if someone really wants to learn bees, having a semester-long class gives you so much information, but then you have your bees, and what do you do during the season? It's really nice to have, more guidance. And the California Master Beekeeping program starts up at the end of May, when you have your active bee season. So it really helps to cement the knowledge that you might get in the HSU class, and really delve into it and have some guidance. So that, I think it serves a little bit of the purpose of mentoring. And actually everybody that was in the California Master Beekeeping program last year, I think, did some mentoring, which also helped increase knowledge. So that's my input for now.
Great, thank you.
I guess I would add that it's typically set up in 3 different steps, starting with an apprentice level. The next step is a journeyman level, and then there's the actual master level, although each level is considered a master's step. It's designed not for the beginning beekeeper. It's designed for somebody that's had bees for at least 1 year. And you're kind of in that space where, when I first started, I was kind of a safe beginner. Now I've kind of stumbled through this, and I have a lot more questions, and I want a little more knowledge, and I want to take that next step. In the past, you had to go to Davis to take these classes. We established a hub in Humboldt County this year. We're probably one of 3 hubs of the California Master Beekeeping program. And we're unique because we're running it through our beekeeping club, not through a university or anything like that. So you don't have to travel to become at least an apprentice level master beekeeper. It's not particularly expensive. I don't know what it costs. We're trying to bring in folks from Del Norte County as well as Mendocino County if we can. The folks that live in Del Norte, Mendocino, might have to travel up here if they want to take the apiary part of the exam, which they'll need to do at some point, but travel's pretty minimal. So I would encourage anybody that's interested to go to the California Master Beekeeping Program website and just kind of look through what the different requirements are and see if that's something you're interested in. We'd love to see you in our next cohort of apprentice level master beekeepers. And if you have any questions, either call me or Janine or email us, and we can talk about it. And that's all I have to say. If anybody has questions right now, we can field those as well.
Thanks, John. What do you got, Mary?
So I'm on the Master Beekeeper Instagram, and they had a plug for a very beginner course called Explore Beekeeping for people who don't know if they want to keep bees or not. And I was wondering if that's something that we should put out there for folks who aren't quite sure but don't want to commit to the Humboldt State extended ed class, and maybe they're thinking about getting bees at some point, but they're not sure if they want to take the plunge. That might be a nice way to feed people into the beekeeping world.
Great.
It's a $25 fee, and I think it's Saturday, isn't it, Mary?
I can't remember. I just I'd have to check, but yeah, there's a January 22nd class and a January 8th class. So it is a sort of limited time offer, but it might be something useful for some of the folks out there who are thinking about keeping bees.
Great, thank you.
And I definitely think that's good. I also do want to mention that the California Master Beekeeping class, our program, has the apprentice assistant certification for those who are just beginning their beekeeping and want to, have more experience, and really, so that's a great program, and that could fit in well with the HSU. And also, I think maybe some of the apprentice level candidates might be interested in being mentors for those that are just beginning. I'm hoping.
So yeah, the next part I had on here was classes at Humboldt State. The details are on the events tab on our website. And there's a direct link for a flyer and also to the Humboldt State website for all the information on it. The Queen Bank, we started a Queen Bank program. So we'll be getting queens this spring. I should have queens as soon as they are available, and we'll reach out via Facebook and email to get a tally before ordering. So I think that'll be a great service for swapping queens out in the spring, doing splits. Education committee. We've started an education committee to help with getting speakers for our general meetings and creating educational opportunities in our community. Anything to add, Hank?
Yeah, I just want to mention that Chris Marney and Rachel Wiggs on the committee with me, and I probably will get together with them. We're going to discuss some projects, what we want to do this year. And I'm working on getting a speaker lined up for a February meeting, and it's Christine Casey from the, it's called the Haagen-Dazs Honeybee Haven in UC Davis. That's next to where the program is, the beekeeping program is. So she's gonna give a presentation on pollination and plants and how to plant a bee-friendly garden.
That's awesome.
I think we have a great lineup coming this year, beginning with the night speaker and going on through the rest of the season. And somebody sent me an email the other day. I guess it was true that Sam Ramsey might be speaking to the group.
That was me.
If you land that guy, I mean,
I get a free queen bee, right?
yeah, you should get a couple of them. But we got a super lineup this year. I hope people take advantage of it, because I'm not aware of any other bee club that's doing quite as well. So congratulations.
Yeah, I've got Sam Ramsey penciled in for October. It's going to be October or November, because he's booked up all the way through September already.
Well, good that you maybe get them.
Yeah, I put in a request in December, so we'll see. I got a nice bold maybe. But let's see. Membership committee. We have also started a membership committee to manage club membership and allow for better communication for events and all bee-related riffraff.
That will be me, and Cheryl has indicated that she would like to help with that. And so we'll be coordinating. I know I've got to pick some stuff up from Janine. We'll work on getting the mailed in dues sorted out and processed. And then just as questions come up, we'll deal with them. And we'll probably be figuring out if we've got enough notices out there for new members on joining the club, and ways that we could work on getting more participation and attracting new membership.
I think Dick LaForge would be a good resource for you also.
Yes.
Yeah, he's been around it all. Humboldt Beekeepers, we've had a YouTube channel since 2015, but we've never used it. So I uploaded all of our general meetings to our YouTube channel. And so that's where I'll be putting our general meeting recordings in YouTube. So
cool.
Yeah, so it's a good way. Then you can go back and you know how YouTube works. That's it. That's all I had.
Thanks,
And
Eric. That's like a really good plan. I was unaware that we had a YouTube, so that's super duper.
Yeah,
So
way
when-
to go.
So when we go to YouTube, what do we search for? Just Humboldt County Beekeepers Association? Okay.
That's exactly what it's called.
Okay.
I think that's it needs to be more technical. We need to jump through more hoops. I mean, can you make it more difficult?
Yeah, well, there's 0 subscriptions. We have no subscribers, so
Oh, I'll have to subscribe.
Well, we better
then.
get there.
Jumping on there tonight. Get
Thanks, Eric.
subscribed.
Yep.
Thank you, Eric.
So yeah, we've got
Thank you, Hank.
we've got 10 minutes. It looks like Patricia is on.
Oh, wonderful.
Very cool.
Hey Patricia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. You wanna get started, or need to wait a little longer, or?
Sure, I can get started now, if that's good with everyone else.
Yeah, Great.
Okay,
floor is
Good.
let
yours.
me share my screen here.
I didn't even get to say,
Oh, did someone want to say something else?
I wanted to say it's our honor to welcome you tonight as our speaker.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go, Janine. I skipped you. Sorry.
I mean, nobody knows the Be Safe program as well as our speaker. I mean, she's the environmental scientist with the California Department of Food and Agriculture's Be Safe program. She's been with it since the inception of December 2018. And I also wanted to thank David Giuliano, our senior agricultural inspector, who's also here tonight, for introducing me personally to Patricia Bohls in September, where I learned that she had accepted the position of the California State Apiarist for the California Department of Agriculture, Food and Agriculture. I understand that she had worked closely with David Stoffel, who retired as the state apiarist. She had been doing apiary inspector, county apiary inspector training with him for 2 years. So she knew what she was getting into. And she's an entomologist. She studied with Dr. Alina Nino at UC Davis, studied honeybees and Varroa, and she has extensive teaching. Besides being able to teach county apiary inspectors, she also has college level teaching in biology, molecular and cellular. I mean, she's an ecologist. She's a delight to be around too. I enjoyed watching her work my bees. She was very careful and gentle with them. So thank you.
Thanks, Janine.
Thank you, Patricia, for being here tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me here to speak to you all. As I go through my presentation, if anyone has any questions, feel free to just ask them. And that's totally fine, but you can certainly ask them at the end of the whole presentation as well. So this will be the buzz on the Be Safe program. As Janine mentioned, I'm the environmental scientist, state apiariculturist for the California Department of Food and Agriculture's state apiary program, the Be Safe program, and just a handful of the things that I do. There's a lot of different, moving parts of the program and moving parts of what I do for CDFA. Some of what I do is work with other agencies, in particular the Department of Pesticide Regulation and Department of Fish and Wildlife on pollinator health issues. In particular, my biggest duty is probably really to train and to assist the County Agricultural Commissioner staff on Be Safe and apiary issues, and to work to make sure that we have consistency across the entire state. I work with the California border stations on apiary importations, and I'm also the secretary for the state apiary board, which that's open to the public, and we're most likely having our next meeting next week, Friday, if anyone wants to check that out. And so that's just a little bit of what I do. This next couple slides, as beekeepers, you probably all know all of this and just how important honeybees are. They contribute like $20 billion to our agricultural system. About 2/3 of the US colonies that come to California for almond pollination. Honeybees perform over 80% of pollination for all commercial crops. 35% of the world's crops rely on pollination by bees, butterflies, moths, bats, birds, and other insects. And in particular here in California, almonds are obviously the big thing that's probably going to pop into everyone's head about what we need honeybees for, but they also help out with our apricots, blueberries, citrus, cucumbers, kiwis, pears, plucots, among other fruits and vegetables. So again, as you probably know, this is from 2017, this data, and we have bees from all over the country that come into California, really into the Central Valleys, quite a bit further south than you all, to pollinate almonds. And you can see with this map, the darker that color of green, the more hives that we have in that particular state. So we particularly get a lot from Texas and Florida, and then from the Pacific Northwest, namely Idaho, and of course the Dakotas, but also from a variety of other states as well. In addition to the pollination, California is a really high producing honey state as well. We're only behind the Dakotas, and honestly, depending upon which year, we might be ahead or below South Dakota, only ever, truly falling behind North Dakota in terms of honey production. So back in 2012, the USDA National Honeybee Health Stakeholder Conference report, and you probably know this, that there's ongoing honeybee losses, and that they were a result of 4 combined factors: pests and parasites, nutrition and lack of adequate forage, pesticide exposure, and genetics. And I love using the Bee Informed Partnerships data. I think they do a fantastic job showing what our colony losses estimates are. And again, you all know this, but we're experiencing really high colony loss every single year. So the California Department of Food and Agriculture secured $1.8 million in state general funds per year for 3 years to implement the Bee Safe program. The $1.5 million will go to the county agricultural commissioner's offices annually, and that's to reimburse their efforts to develop, implement, and report on activities associated with the program. And the first grant period was from November 15th, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. Oh, and I just saw what is the main forage in North Dakota? Don't quote me on this, but I do believe one of the big things is canola oil. And really with North Dakota, with a lot of the big beekeepers, there's kind of a circuit that they do where a lot of them will come to California in, January, February, maybe even, a little bit earlier to get ready for that almond pollination in February, make a lot of money doing that. They might go do a couple of other, especially maybe like fruit type of pollinations, maybe in Oregon or Washington or a little bit further south. And then a lot of them then go to the Dakotas to have a lot of honey production, and then they, might go to another state and then start that circuit all over again. So the main objectives of the Bee Safe program is to reduce honeybee stress through improved apiary theft prevention efforts, decreased apiary pest pressure, decreased apiary stress due to pesticide exposure, and increased apiary foraging opportunities. The county agricultural commissioners are granted authority identified in the Food and Agricultural Code to enforce various apiary and pest prevention laws such as registration, identification, placement of hives, inspection, and abatement of pests, intended to ensure the vitality of the beekeeping industry and to prevent the introduction into or the spread within the state of pests. And so going back to the chat, and that is about what people are being offered. I've seen typically about like 180 to probably like 220, really an average of 200 per hive for almond pollination. And so especially with a lot of those big beekeepers, that's why they do it. And I certainly understand, especially for your group of beekeepers, why that's a big danger and concern for a lot of you. So again, we started in really kind of fall of 2018, but really didn't start getting going until more spring of 2019. And we have contracts with the various county agricultural commissioners' offices. And so back in fiscal year of 2018, 2019, and our fiscal years run from July 1st through June 30th, we had 40 CAC that were involved. The year afterwards, 43 again. And then this current fiscal year, we have 44. And so we've been slowly expanding, and we have most counties on board. And really the counties that we don't have on board either really don't have any bees there, or they're the really, they're more of the city counties that the honeybees aren't as big of their concern, unfortunately. So one of the main things I've been doing is training the CACs in everything that really goes on with the Be Safe program. You might be aware that we had a apiary program about 3 decades ago, but it was gotten rid of for a variety of reasons. And so with that, there's very little institutional knowledge across the state with the counties of what exactly to do, how to do it. And so I've been doing a lot of trainings all across the state to make sure that everyone's on the same page about what they're doing. I did 6 trainings back in April of 2019, which really kind of got things going. And we had people from 42 different counties, 5 trainings again in October 2019. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, I wasn't able to do in-person trainings in 2020. And then early in 2021, I did a couple of Zoom trainings. But as things were in a little bit more of a lull, even though things are now getting worse, I was able to do some more in-person trainings in the fall. And so I really tried to get to as many places as possible. And so I went to 9 different locations to train inspectors. And so it's not just the inspectors from those counties, it's inspectors from nearby counties that also came to those as well. And the current focus of our program is to encourage communication and education between county personnel and beekeepers, train county personnel on apiary health inspections, promote consistency in the Be Safe program activities throughout the state with the apiary inspections, notifications, education, and markings. So I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about BeeWhere. And I'm assuming most of you are probably at least a little bit familiar with BeeWhere, or at least if you're not, you're probably familiar with just registering directly with your county. What BeeWhere is a real-time mapping system where beekeepers can mark hives with a simple pin drop, and applicators can access preferences for mandatory 48-hour pesticide notifications during bloom. And so what this graphic is showing here is that our BeeWhere program, it's really more of a software program, like, repository. It's secure and confidential. There's a variety of different ways that you can input information into this. As a beekeeper, you could go through the CalAg permits and implement stuff that way. You could still call up your local ag commissioner and be like, this is my information. Or there's also some connections now with FieldWatch, which is really common in other states to use. And then that information is securely held in the BeeWhere repository. And then for bee check reports, which are done by pesticide applicators to make sure that there aren't bees nearby, and if there are, to notify you about what pesticides they're using. And so those applicators can either use their CalAg permit account, or they can call up the county to ask about that then. And so what I have here on the left is what the essentially what BeeWhere was before it was BeeWhere. Just a hard copy map in the back of the commissioner's office, bunch of pins on the map, versus today. On the right hand side is what it more so looks like. And so really bringing it into the 21st century. Okay, and some folks get confused by Be Safe and BeeWhere, so I like to always kind of clear that up. BeeWhere is a collaborative project supported by many organizations, including CDFA, DPR, CAPCA, and CACASA. CAPCA being the pesticide group, and CACASA being the agricultural commissioners group. And the purpose of it is a mechanism for beekeepers to register their bees and notify their local counties of movement of colonies, and a mechanism for pest control advisors, growers, and applicators to do bee checks. Versus the Be Safe program, that is funded by CDFA. And the purpose of that is to provide funds and training to the California counties to perform apiary related work. And so the counties will certainly utilize BeeWhere, but Be Safe is really the more of like the state apiary program itself. And some of the things that those county folks will do is to check for American foul brood. They can do health certificates. And these are things that the county can help you to do, is that they can check for American foul brood. They can do health certificates, let's say for bringing your bees to another state and the other state requires a health certificate, the county can help you do that. Colony strength and testing for Africanized honeybees. With the Africanized honeybee thing though, it really depends upon the particular circumstance of like who's going to pay for that testing. So going to go over what's expected of applicators, growers, and PCAs. The pest control applicators, or PCAs, can conduct a voluntary bee check to determine the number of hives within a mile radius of the proposed site. So right now it's just voluntary for PCAs to end up doing a bee check, but it's something that I certainly encourage and encourage the counties to let all the PCAs know that this is something that they can do. And with PCAs, what'll happen then is they'll go into BeeWhere. They'll be like, okay, this proposed site that's, this particular area, I'm planning on recommending this particular pesticide. I wonder if there's any bees nearby. And then it'll pop up just a number of how many registered colonies are within a 1 mile radius. And so this could be really useful for the PCA to make the recommendation, because maybe there's, no honeybee colonies within a 1 mile radius. And so they're like, okay, I feel totally fine recommending the bee toxic pesticide. Or maybe, like a couple dozen pop up and they might be like, this makes me feel really uncomfortable to recommend this pesticide. Maybe I'll recommend this non-bee toxic pesticide instead. And so certainly if you have, if you know any PCAs, definitely encourage them to use BeeWhere, because I think it's really helpful. With the applicators and growers though, they are required to do bee checks. And with this, applicators and growers intending to apply any pesticide labeled toxic to bees to a blossoming plant. And with blossoming plant, that doesn't matter if it's the crop that they care about or if it's like weeds that are there. If there's something that's blooming, that's considered a blossoming plant, because the bee doesn't know whether or not you care about the corn or if they care about like the dandelions or they're like in the corn. The dandelions are blooming, that counts as a blossoming plant. So applicators and growers intending to apply any pesticide labeled toxic to bees to a blossoming plant shall, prior to the application, inquire of the commissioner or of a notification service designated by the commissioner, BeeWhere, whether any beekeeper with apiaries within 1 mile of the application site has requested notice of such application. I'm going to Cheryl's question about how this is enforced. This is something that the counties can help to enforce. So if you think there's been a particular issue with this, you can contact the county, and there are timestamps within BeeWhere that the county has access to see whether or not the applicators have at least done their due diligence of looking up the beekeeper's information. And then if a further type of incident were to be unfolded, there's other things that could then be gathered to make sure that the beekeeper was properly contacted. And so with that, so applicator goes in, this is when I'm, tending to apply this bee toxic pesticide. Sorry, words and things, sorry, train of thought versus looking at the chat. So applicator goes into BeeWhere. This is the pesticide I'm going to, plan on applying. It's toxic to bees. And then it pops up with the beekeeper's contact information. So if you check that you care, which I'm assuming probably all of you will, there's certainly some larger beekeepers that don't want to be bothered with this information. Your contact information, whatever you put into BeeWhere of how you prefer to be contacted, will pop up for that pesticide applicator. And then the applicator is legally required to contact you within 48 or before 48 hours in advance of the application. And there's a bunch of information they're required to tell you then. The time and place the application is to be made, the crop and acreage to be treated, the method of application, the pesticide and dosage rate of the pesticide to be applied, and contact information in case the beekeeper needs to communicate prior to the application. And now that's what's legally required. You can't stop a pesticide application from occurring because it's kind of a from the government level, cost benefit of like pesticide, but you need to do this to grow these crops, but the beekeepers need to be informed so that you could potentially do something about it. So they're required to tell you all of this information, but it's not going to stop a pesticide application. And so for you as a beekeeper, you could then talk to the pesticide applicator. Maybe it's something with a low residual time. And so you could ask for them maybe to like, spray at nighttime so that your bees aren't going to be out. Or especially if it's not too hot of a day, you might be able to close up your hive the night before, so you're not going to have any bees that are going to be out and about at that point in time. Going back to the chat, how can we tell whether our hive was contaminated by pesticides? So that really depends upon how severely it was affected by pesticides. If this was a direct pesticide kill, you'd likely see a big pile of dead or dying bees outside of your hive. And that's a sign that that was a pesticide kill. And that's something that DPR can do an investigation on. And so you can contact the county, and the county will work with DPR about how to deal with that. However, depending upon the severity of it, maybe if your bees just flew through some, a couple of bees might have died and you really aren't necessarily going to notice that. You're really only going to clearly notice if it's that pesticide kill with a whole bunch of them out in front. You can certainly go look at your bees to see if they're exhibiting some strange behavior. And by strange behavior, I really mean almost as if the bees are kind of like drunk. That's a little bit more characteristic. Or like, kind of like if they have like, imagine like a honeybee with like cerebral palsy, they're moving in this very weird type of way. That can be a little bit more characteristic of a pesticide kill versus if your honeybees just die, that doesn't mean it's a pesticide. I would actually personally probably double check about your Varroa mite levels. That I'm assuming you've probably all talked a whole bunch about Varroa in the past before, but if you have any questions about that, that's basically what my whole master's thesis was on. Okay, so there's a few things with the Be Safe program that can also be a sign of a pesticide kill. What's expected of a beekeeper? You have to register annually, such as now, because now it's the first of the year. By the counties of movement of colonies, make sure that you have proper apiary and hive markings and comply with any local apiary ordinances. Different counties and cities have different ones, such as maybe providing water or a particular distance away from roads, schools, and houses for your beehive to be located. So every California and out-of-state beekeeper who moves bees into the state or comes into possession of an apiary must register with the appropriate county agricultural commissioner. So all of you that have bees in Humboldt, you register with the Humboldt County Agricultural Commissioner. That annual registration is required on January 1st or within 30 days of when you enter the state or come into the possession of an apiary. And so this pertains to commercial beekeepers, their brokers, and hobbyist beekeepers, regardless of hive count. In addition, a county could have a specialized ordinance, some information about local ordinances if you want to look into that. Also, hives must be identified by a prominently displayed sign at the entrance of the apiary, or are essential with the owner's name, address, just city and state, and phone number. And I'm going to go into more detail with all of those. With the registration, again, that's to be filed with the commissioner. And check with your local county to see preferred method of registration. I know Humboldt is happy to use BeeWhere. There's also an annual $10 registration fee that is due to the county commissioner of the county the apiary is first located in that year. And the registration fee is only per beekeeper, not per apiary. And the registration fee may be waived by the local county if the beekeeper has 9 or fewer colonies. In addition to that registration, there's movement notifications, which can be done in BeeWhere. Beekeepers must notify both the destination county and origin county of movement of bee colonies within 72 hours of that movement. And this applies to both intra and inter-county movement. So if you move them within Humboldt, you have to do it. And if you move them from, like, let's say Humboldt to like Sonoma County or some other county, you would also have to do it. after January 1st, so now county agricultural commissioners may assess administrative civil penalties for violations of the provisions regulating bee management, such as with the annual registration of beekeepers, marking of apiaries with required contact information, and notification of relocation of hives within 72 hours. And those civil penalties are to be imposed in proportion to the violation, measured as minor, moderate, or serious, with fines ranging from a written notice to a maximum of $1,000 per violation. But with this, the counties are very much so encouraged and have been doing a great job, I think, of going out and letting people know, like, hey, this is an issue. This is an issue for this way. And then, coming back to check on to make sure that that was actually done properly, and then not, fining anyone, and just making sure that everyone's educated. It's just if there was someone that the county were to go out, hey, this is the thing, and then follow up with them like once or twice and they still didn't do it, it would be at that point in time that they would be assessing a civil penalty. And the question about what about within city limits? Can you clarify a little bit more about what you mean by city limits? So I wait for that. With BeeWhere, you can use that to register your colonies and update movement of colonies. It is important to know that at this time, BeeWhere cannot be used to pay the registration fee. And so you have to provide that registration fee to the county directly. I'm really hoping this is going to be, changed at some point in time. It's more of a kind of like IT issue with that. Okay, reading more of the chat. Registration is required anywhere in the county. Yeah, thank you, David. Eureka, Arcata, yep. Yes, and so yeah, if you're moving colonies between apiaries within the city limits, even though they're in the county, and so that is still something that you'd need to update on BeeWhere. And it's really easy to do that on BeeWhere. So you can kind of see this little map that we have here. When you use BeeWhere, you essentially put little pins on the map. And then with that pin, you can indicate how many colonies that you have there. And so you can go in and be like, okay, my bees are here. And then I move them to this spot. And then you just put a pin here. And then you type in the number of colonies there. So let's say the original spot now has no colonies. You don't even have to delete that pin. You could just mark it as 0. And then the county won't be seeing that anymore, but you'll still be able to see that apiary spot. Let's say if you have like 2 apiaries where you move stuff back and forth from, that makes it really easy then. And as long as it's 0, just not going to show up on the county side. And then you can type in, say if it's 9 colonies into your other spot, how it is. And yeah, BeeWhere makes it super easy to make those changes. This is just saying that your information is confidential. And so if there was some other person who wanted to know the location of your bee colonies and they were to try and use BeeWhere or call up the county, the county and BeeWhere would not give out any of that information. Your location of your colonies is private. Which is different than it is in other states. I could actually go to the North Dakota website and find the location of all of the registered colonies right now. In California, that's private. In terms of home county, because that's something that I've been saying a few times, for in-state beekeepers, so for all of you, it's where your main business or apiary location would be. So I'm assuming for all of you, that would be Humboldt. And for out-of-state beekeepers, it's the county in which the bees will first be placed. Okay, when you go into BeeWhere, you can go to you can either go through FieldWatch, but if you don't use that regularly, I honestly recommend just going to the beewhere.calagpermits.org and doing it that way. You have to say what your home county is, and then you'll fill in all of this information here. It can also be beecheck.org. There's a variety of different ways in order to access it. And so you'd be filling in your information, really basic, your name, your address, and then how you'd like to be contacted. And this is both in terms of BeeWhere from the IT tech support side, and then also for pesticide applicators. So you might have a different way that you prefer to be contacted if you need IT help versus if there's going to be a pesticide application. So you can mark those differently. And yeah, and reiterating again in the chat, public information requests do not cover beekeepers. Only the county offices have access to the information and they cannot share that information. So this is then once you register, what your view would look like. You can see what county you have, just what year you probably initially registered, whether or not the county has marked you as paid. And then you can zoom around the whole state and put pins where you need to have them. And you can manage then different locations. It might take a moment to kind of get used to it if you're not too familiar with a lot of computers, but if you are, it's pretty fast and simple. And if you need help, the IT people are super helpful with all of this. So I have some of our results. So for 2019, which is the first full year of the program, we had over 900,000 registered colonies by over 2,000 different beekeepers. We had 96 PCA bee check reports, 664 grower bee check reports, and 6,053 applicator bee check reports. So I think that's pretty successful for the first year and, trying to educate everyone, getting folks on board. And sorry, move that slide around by accident. And the result for 2020, we had almost 1.6 million registered colonies by over 2,800 beekeepers, 814 PCA bee check reports, 6,289 grower bee check reports, and 19,442 applicator bee check reports. And so I think this is really great. I think we're capturing probably most of the beekeepers and colonies that are within the state. And we're getting a lot of these applicators and growers to make sure that they're properly communicating with all of you beekeepers about when those pesticide applications are occurring. I don't quite have the results for 2021 yet. I will soon, but it's only been a few days past the year. Backing up here. So as I mentioned earlier, there's two different ways to access BeeWhere. You can either do it through FieldWatch, or you can do it through CALAG permits. And so that's where we have the kind of difference here in the website. They both go to the same repository. It's just a slightly different way of looking at it. And there's this integration because FieldWatch is used in other states. And so we wanted to make sure that it was really easy for a lot of out-of-state beekeepers in order to do that. But again, if you don't use FieldWatch normally, I honestly just think the CALAG permits, way of accessing it is a little bit easier, but entirely up to you. Either one is totally fine. Okay, so now I'm going to go over a few of those other things that I mentioned. One is apiary markings. And so no person shall maintain an apiary on premises other than that of their residence unless the apiary is identified as follows. And by residence, so that would be just where you live. So if you have a beehive in your backyard, you don't need to do this. But if you owned properly elsewhere that you don't have your house on, you would still need this particular signage information there. And so that is either by a sign that is prominently displayed on the entrance side of the apiary or stenciled on the hive that states in dark letters, not less than 1 inch in height on a background of contrasting color, the name of the owner or person responsible for the apiary, their address, which we're interpreting as just city and state, no need to put your entire address on there, and telephone number. And so this is an example of what that should look like. It can be your actual name, it can be your business name if you have a business name, the phone number, city and state, and these are nice dark letters on the white beehive background, and so really easy to read and to tell. And so I'm going to go over a couple of different scenarios. I'm sure you're probably familiar with this background I have here. This is BeeBio. With this one, if there was a sign that had that information, the name, address, and phone number, that was kind of like at the front, if there was really like a clear entrance to the apiary, this would cover all of these hives then. Or you could have that information on each individual hive. If it wasn't on one of them though, that one wouldn't be in compliance, but the other ones would be. And with pollination, hives tend to be on pallets. And so it's very rare for there to be multiple beekeepers on the same pallet. And so for this, we're not requiring it to be on every single beehive, but at least one hive per pallet. And so this would cover all 4 of these hives. This would cover all 4 of these hives. And so that would be considered in compliance. However, if one didn't have it, these would not be in compliance and these ones would be in compliance. And so what would typically happen here is that, you know, when the county goes out, they'll see this, they'll talk to you, they'll be like, hey, this is something that you need to do. This is why you need to do it. And then, you know, you should go work to be in compliance, and they'll follow up with you later to make sure that it is. For a lot of you, probably just having a sign if there's a clear entrance to the apiary is going to be fine. If it's just in your own backyard, you don't need any of that information because it's in your backyard. Or if you did do more of the pollination, an easy way of doing this rather than painting on all of them is just to print out paper that has that on it and laminate that and just staple that to your bee box. And so that can quickly cover a whole bunch of ground without having to take all the time to actually paint onto every single one of your beehives. The other thing I want to mention are apiary brands, and these are optional, but you might be interested in having them. The Apiary Brand Program provides protection for registered owners of apiary brands from unlawful possession of branded equipment. Our code makes it unlawful for any person to have his or her possession any apiary equipment which is branded with any serial number brand other than their own, unless they have a bill of sale. And so by an apiary brand, I have these circled in yellow. It's a, 1 or 2 numbers dash 1 or 2 numbers for the most part. And there should be in this upper left-hand corner of the wood, and they can also be on frames. So the owner, I already said that, for the Apiary Brand Program, it's just a $25 fee that you have to send to financial services and a really simple application. However, you still have to then go get your own branding iron. And so once you apply to get this, then it'll take a little bit of time to work its way through the processes. You'll then be given a brand number. As I mentioned already, the brand number is optional, and it's different than the apiary markings that we already went over. If you have an apiary brand, you still have to have those markings though. And when there is an apiary brand, the hive should be branded in the upper left-hand corner of the wood. They should be at least 1/2 inch in height, and frames should be branded or stenciled on top bars. So again, like this upper left-hand corner of the wood, or you can also put them on the frames too in addition. If an apiary brand is sold, there's a couple different ways in which the number can be forwarded. So if the registered brand number can be forwarded to the purchaser, if they don't already have a registered brand number. So let's say, Bob is going out of business. He's selling his hives to Joe, which have a brand number. Bob can then forward his brand number to Joe. And now this brand number is Joe's brand number. You just need to submit a bill of sales that we can change it for our records. Or the registered brand number will be transferred to the purchaser, and they will have that brand and their previous brand. So if that example, both Bob and Joe both have brand numbers. Bob's still going out of business. He's selling all of his branded hives to Joe. Joe will then have 2 different brand numbers that will be in his name. Or the third option here is the brand of the purchaser will be placed below the original brand. So if this one, Joe already has a brand number, Joe doesn't want to deal with another brand number. And so when Joe buys all of Bob's stuff, Joe will then just put his brand number underneath Bob's brand number. And then Bob will submit a certificate of destruction, which essentially says that his brand is no longer in use. Yes, give me a give me a moment, and I can like pull up a little bit of information I have on that. Remind me at the end of all of this, and I'll try and see if I can dig that information up. It's definitely several hundred every year. What I have up here is the registration and use of an apiary brand number. So this is what's on our public CDFA website. On the right-hand side is the really simple application in order to get it. This is what the bill of sale is, also on the CDFA public website. And so when you send in that $25, you send in the application. Eventually down the line, I'll end up seeing that the check has been cashed, and I'll get your application information, and then I will fill out and award you with a apiary identification certificate of ownership, and you'll get your awesome brand number. And then we print this out on snazzy cardstock and everything and send this to you in the mail then. And so with that, let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to stop my share and see if I can quickly pull up my information that I have on hive theft. But feel free to ask more questions as I'm looking that up. Okay, actually I found it super fast. And so these are not necessarily hard set numbers. I work a lot with Officer Freeman. He's the vice president of the Rural Crimes Task Force and has been kind of, like nicknamed the bee detective. He's the one that does a lot of the bee theft cases, and these are his numbers based upon what he knows about, but there's probably more than this. So starting from 2017, there were 1,048 hives stolen. In 2018, there were 300, 2019, 542, 2020, 639, and for last year, back in November, which is when I got these numbers, there were 410. And really with hive theft, we see the most amount of hive theft occurring right around really this time of year, before almond pollination, because typically thieves are actual beekeepers of at least some sort, so that they know how to handle them, and then they'll steal them before almond pollination, get themselves a contract with an almond grower who didn't get secure bees months in advance like most of the almond growers did, walk away with, especially with desperate almond growers, more than that $200. It might even be like $240 per hive or something, and take that money. They didn't take care of the bees all year. And then sometimes we'll actually see people then dump those hives after almond pollination. So they'll pick those hives back up and then dump them somewhere else. And so it's one of the reasons to have an apiary brand, is that we can certainly tell if that brand is still there, even if they painted over your markings. And sometimes we wouldn't be able to get you your bees back, depending upon how long it's been and the state of the bees. But we'd hopefully at least be able to get you your equipment back then. And so that's what really goes on with hive theft, unfortunately. So again, it's normally this time of year before almond pollination where we see the most of it.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? I have one. So in my bee check, I have all my hive registered. How often do you update the quantity of hives? Like right after you do splits and you've increased your colony, do you go in and adjust it then?
Yeah, that would really be the ideal time to end up doing it. And with that, for the most part, we're not counting all of the hives to make sure you have the exact right number. It's to your benefit to have the right number of hives in there in case there is, let's say, a PCA that's going around doing those bee checks, and then they can be like, oh, there's actually 90, not 45 hives here, and that it's going to change my recommendation potentially.
Okay.
Well, what Eric means is that, you catch a swarm. Okay, it went up from 8 to 9. Okay, you sold one, it went down to 8. Okay, you make, they can change by small numbers very frequently.
Yeah, and so honestly, if you don't keep up with every little instant, it's not a huge deal. Certainly when you do splits and it's going to be a much bigger change, you should certainly be changing it then. And certainly also, anytime you're moving them, make sure you have those numbers correct as you're moving those hives from those different pins on the map.
For the information that you stencil on your boxes, does it matter where it's located, where it's placed, or is it you just want it visible?
Just visible. So it could be on the very front, it could be on the back, it could be on the side, as long as that particular part of the hive's not blocked by another hive or some item.
Okay, I got a silly question because I came in late. I had a music rehearsal until about 6:30. But it looked like your slide presentation is something that we have already, or perhaps most of. But Janine and I teach beekeeping through Humboldt State, and we're not going to go through all this. We're just going to talk about you need to register, and here's the website. And we would refer people to a slideshow that we could have in our Google Docs slideshows that people can view anytime. So in case people get more complicated or have an apiary somewhere other than home, they can be referred to this slideshow. So I guess I'm not sure quite what I'm asking, but is your slideshow available that we could put it there?
Yes, I can certainly, I
have-
can send it to Janine, or you can send me your email address and I can send it to you, and then you can put it up there.
Yeah, okay, so we can do that. And
Yes,
so,
definitely.
in fact, we have already made one that's a condensed version for backyard beekeepers, but it's may not be, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like it's the same information, but I'd have to get, yours is probably up to date. So does
Yes.
like Janine have your email address, or have you given that out yet?
Yes, she has my email address. And let
Okay.
me actually just put that in the chat. If anyone else has any questions or anything, you're more than welcome to email me.
Hey, Dick, bear in mind, I think this was recorded tonight as well.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that we can use all the frames from her show as individual frames and make them into a Humboldt County backyard beekeeper version. If we wanted to, and I really wouldn't want to have it so that somebody has, if they're interested in more information, has to watch an hour worth of talk, but that they could flip through the slides and find what they need.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And it certainly is a lot easier to create another presentation from a presentation.
Yeah.
Tonight's meeting is going to be on YouTube also.
Oh, what is?
Tonight's meeting
Yeah.
is?
Yeah. But I know that people are not going to spend an hour looking for the right information by listening to us ask silly questions.
Yeah, and it's also about accessibility. Some people might be more auditory learners, or maybe they'll turn into the YouTube. Other people might be just more visual and should just prefer to just flip through the slides. I get what you're doing, Dick, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'd like to add, I'm available to help with any kind of registrations with BeeWhere. If people are having difficulty, have some questions, either over the phone or in person. So I'll put my email and phone in the chat.
Yeah, see, we would put David down in our slideshow as the local reference, for example. See, we would work that in. We make it specific for here.
Perfect.
I have a question. Is pesticide application history available for backyard beekeepers, searchable through BeeWhere, or does that only happen when there's an incident and you have a request?
So if you have beehives within a mile radius of a spray, that's when the pesticide applicator is supposed to tell you about it. And if you suspect that happened and they didn't tell you, that's when you can approach the county, and the county can double check some of the records on that. But there's no searchable for the public about when those sprays are happening.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else? Any more questions?
Actually, I have another question. It's kind of random. Are there any laboratories that analyze for pesticide residue in wax or honey that regular people can utilize? I know it'd probably be a couple $100 a sample. I was just
I
curious.
don't know off the top of my head. I know that there are places that do pesticide analysis. They tend to be very expensive though. But send me an email and I will follow up with you on that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, I ask another oddball question.
Go for it.
So you were showing in your slides that North Dakota is the #1 honey producer, right?
Mhm.
And so that would mean that they must have the highest number of colonies, right?
Not necessarily.
Well, a huge number at least.
They have a huge number. Yeah, North Dakota, last time I checked, tends to have about 600,000.
And you speculated that they basically are collecting nectar off of rapeseed, right? Canola.
That certainly is one of them up there. Yeah.
So for a while, that was kind of the hotbed for neonicotinoids, at least, so I know this isn't your area and I'm not trying to create a argument of any kind, but what does that say?
I think there's a lot of
Or you just want to say no
entering into
comment?
the speculation realm. I think there's a lot of different things that we could say, especially with the transport of bees across state lines, from almond pollination, up to the Dakotas and back, whether that's just in terms of pesticides, but also in addition to pests. We have a whole bunch of bees in a, small area in the Central Valley, so that also leads to the potential spread of various pests. And I guess my very, political, correct answer is that bee issues are a combination of a variety of things, and pesticides are just one piece of that puzzle. It's also certainly pests. I would put a huge amount of blame on Varroa, and then on the diseases that Varroa spread, and that it's probably that pesticides weaken bees a little bit. The Varroa, and among other pests, like small hive beetle and so forth, weaken them, and then ultimately a lot of honeybee hives colonies will end up dying from diseases that are spread by the Varroa mite because they've already been weakened. Oh, and in addition to the poor nutrition, especially with me, traveling around and being in potential different monocrops, that it's hard to parse one out from another. There's a lot of things that add into it.
Okay, thank you.
As long as we're on this subject, if you don't mind, what's your chance of the likelihood of small hive beetle establishing itself here on the coastline of Humboldt County?
I really hope that's not going to happen.
Well,
And yeah, and I know you all do as well.
Yeah,
I think the most important thing is to remain very vigilant about it. And so if there is another incident of it, to take care of it right away. And that's true of really any invasive species anywhere in the world, that if you can start to figure out if it's there and then do something about it ASAP, that's your chance of actually being able to get rid of it rather than just manage it like they have to do in other parts of the state.
Yeah, well, we went through that. David can tell you all about it, but we haven't seen any since. So I guess I'm going to repeat the original question. Do you have any estimate of the ecological suitability of the coastal Humboldt County for small hive beetles actually establishing themselves?
I would say in the coming years, it'd probably be a little bit more likely with climate change and so forth. So not necessarily in the near future, but I think down the line, we're going to see a lot of more shift of the ranges of some pests that we have.
Well, you're saying they wouldn't be too happy with it right now.
Yes.
Okay. From what I've heard from people in the Central Valley is that when you get north, they see them sometimes, but they don't seem very established. But in the southern part of the state, they seem established. Quite thoroughly. Anyway, okay, well, that's good. That's good. We will keep an eye out. We went through a big local education binge here on small hive beetles, and they are part of the beekeeping class. So we hope that everybody is watching. I've also become aware and noticed that there are as at least one other and clubbed antenna, a beetle that looks not really the same, but could be mistaken. So there, there are ones that anyway, we would emphasize taking samples or pictures and then running them by us, and especially by David, which is what we did with the original discovery. And they were right on it. David was right on it. Somebody wrote, the coast is a great habitat for any insect. That's in the chat. I would disagree. I would say some mixed insects do well here and some don't.
That's East Coast.
So it's a great habitat for spiders.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just a huge diversity of insects. I think you can't generalize for anything about insects.
Yeah, we can. We have plenty of them, but fortunately, we have a lot of spiders.
But spiders are good. They eat a lot of other insects we don't want.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thanks for the estimate.
You're welcome. Sorry that I don't have a better idea for you.
Well, that time will tell. And also there's the same question goes for the let's see, scientific and the Vespa mandarina. There's an article in one of the news, one of the magazines, I think it was Bee Culture, that gave an estimate of a detailed map, but it was only like Washington and Idaho and so forth. What do you think about their ecological love of Humboldt County, especially the coast?
What I've been reading from scientific journals on them, it's unlikely. So if we were to just consider, the population, the introduction that we've seen in northern Washington, they're not going to come to California. We would have to have a different incident in which they would come from another boat or whatever to Humboldt for them to become established here.
Okay.
They could certainly, I think, do all right in Humboldt County, because we're seeing them do all right-ish up there, but they're not going to spread from Washington to California. There would have to be, again, a whole separate incident of them landing in North America.
Well, are you saying that they would, they couldn't make, they can't fly that far given a few years, or are you saying that they are genetically unsuited for being here, and that if they were to be here, they would have to be a different genetic strain that was more temperate, for example?
So also send me an email and I'll send you the scientific paper that I'm talking about. I think it's more about the path that they would have to end up coming, that they wouldn't really make it to California, but they could potentially settle here if, again.
Okay.
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. I'm kind of questioning you because plenty of insects have made it entirely across the United States, given enough years. So I have my doubts that they would just say, oh, we don't travel, we don't expand our range because we just aren't that kind of insect, without having a reason that, that they can't thrive.
And I think that's valid. I will double check the scientific paper that I'm thinking of to make sure that I have it down correctly.
Yeah, and of course, your safest answer in all these cases is that we will find out.
I mean, I think that's true for everything, is that we will find out. We can't say anything for certain.
Right, and then you default to the standard, keep your eyes open and let us know if you see any.
Yes.
Okay.
And I do have to say that I do also get folks from the public that will let me know if they think they see the Asian giant hornet, which is certainly good. But all of those photos that I have received are all definitely not the Asian giant hornet. I've gotten quite a few assassin flies and Jerusalem crickets in my invoice. And one bumblebee.
We get excited calls every so often on the forget their scientific name, but the big wood boring beetles with the long ovipositors sticking out of the rear end, you know, the cirricids or whatever they are.
Yeah, they're a type of wasp. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Class, I got to keep an eye on these things and make the new beekeepers aware of them, even if they haven't shown up yet, because they will read about them. Their friends, once you know they know you're a new beekeeper, they'll start asking you all these things.
Yes,
Yeah.
certainly true.
The insect ambassadors. Anyway, thanks on that.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have any other questions for me?
I'm wondering what kind of interesting experiences you've had in your time being a state apiary inspector.
I mean, in terms, really, I just have to say it's been really cool to be able to travel up and down the state. Like, just in 2021, I went as far north as Wairika and as far south as El Centro in Imperial County. And so I really get to see all over the state then and talk with the county inspectors, but also talk with a lot of beekeepers all over the state. And so that's a really rewarding and really cool experience because California is full of a very diverse population.
That's good. So you see how we live as beekeepers all over the state.
Yes.
And our different needs.
Yes, and that is certainly true. There's a huge diversity within just the honeybee industry itself. It ranges, from the commercial to the hobbyist, but then that's also different depending upon your geographical location as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, folks, anything else?
What a fantastic talk. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You all have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
You do the same thing. Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other either bee stories or bee questions, or how are people's colonies doing? How many losses are people seeing?
I'm kind of taking some heavy losses this winter.
Same here. I'm at like 30%.
Well, what do you say? I lost one colony that I tried to combine with the colony that I had down at Shake Fork Farm that was weakening, I think, due to mites and probably loss of a queen. And I brought it back and combined it. And then one of my strong colonies in the south end of my long lane just totally robbed it out. And so I've lost one, but everything else is doing pretty good.
How's your long hive?
Well, I have one side of it, the south end is doing really good and it's really strong. And the north end of it and the colony is just kind of like a small to medium sized colony.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a few of those.
But so far my losses, I guess, are like out of nine colonies, I've lost one.
Pretty good.
What's that, a 10?
That's 9%. 8.7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a round numbers kind of person.
Yeah.
I have lost 2 of them so far, and I think I'm going to lose 1. But I made a decision today. The weather's going to be somewhat warm next week. I'm going to treat one of them. I'm going to give it a try, because I was unhappy with the Varroa drop this fall. I used to Formic Pro. I should have used the Max Strip, but so I put some Formic Pro, 1 pad in there, and hopefully, but the hive is declining, and it's kind of emergency treatment, I guess.
I'm thinking
It's supposed to be warm enough next week. It's supposed to be above 50 degrees. And
Has anyone else
hopefully,
tried the OA drip that ran?
Say again?
Has anyone tried the oxalic acid drip method that Randy Oliver uses?
Not yet, but I'm gonna next spring.
Yeah, I tried it and it actually saved one of my colonies, I think. I mean, they look like they're doing better. So, and the mite count was reduced from 20 to 7 after 2 applications. I did 2 applications in 1 month, 2 weeks apart in December, 50 milligrams each. I mean, yeah, milliliters. And it's super easy to do and cheap.
I think Janine, some of us, like, for example, Janine and I are waiting for a window of time, probably this weekend, to do the vaporization oxalic acid, because this is the time for that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying one's better than the other, but we do happen to have the equipment. And so I don't know if one is better than the other. I don't know if Randy's got numbers on that. But yeah, this is a time where the fruit level is down, should be down. And I think I just feel in my seat of the pants art of beekeeping soul that it's time to hit those mites.
Definitely, yeah. So I'm doing it again on Saturday when I open up the hive and another test. And so, but no, he's got it on his website that it is actually more effective than the vaporization. So that's why I did it. It's super, super easy to mix together. You can keep it in the fridge, and when you apply it, it's just.
Okay, very good.
Huh? Syringe from the feed store, so.
Excuse me, Dick, are you planning on doing 3 treatments once a week?
You know, in past years, I've just only done it once. I think what I'm going to do is, I'll pick a day when it's over 50, and I'll just take a really brief inspection. And if I see a lot of brood, I'll probably do it more than once. And if I don't, then I will probably do it if the population is good, but they're not raising, they don't have pupas, I'll probably do it once. But it kind of depends on the mite drop too. So I would say I can't tell you right now. I'll have to add up all the evidence. I'm open to doing it more than once, but it probably mostly depends on the brood level. Also, if it's a weak hive, I may not do it more than once if they're really weak. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you know that bees, I think it's Honeybee Help. I don't know. There's a website that was suggesting that we should actually treat our packaged bees with OA at this point, with the Varroa everybody being overrun with Varroa so much. Have you guys ever?
Do you mean packaged bees?
Ever heard of that?
Last spring?
Yeah, like when you get them, right after you.
You're not talking about right now. You're talking about when you actually get them.
Yeah, when we get our packages, he was suggesting actually to wait a week until after they were installed, like when the queen already was settled and all that, and then doing a treatment right away.
Yeah.
Before she's able to get a whole bunch of eggs established.
Yeah, well, they won't have pupas at that stage, so it's so you will get the mites if they have any. The other thing that's against that is that the people who supply you with the packaged bees do, I'm sure, quite thorough mite treatments before they shake the bees into the boxes or while the bees are being raised, because it's in their interest to not have mites, because it's in their interest to have as many bees to sell as possible.
Right, but then yeah.
So yeah, but on the other hand, it's not going to hurt if you do it, as long as you bother your queen. You'll have a new queen. She'll be pretty strong. She probably won't be hurt. So I would say there's not much harm in doing it. And I guess the bottom line is that if you do it, keep track of the mite drop. If you hardly get any, then you didn't really need to. if you do get
Mhm.
mite drop, you'll know it's a good idea, and you add up that experience. Hopefully you might share it with everybody, and we'll find out.
Okay.
You could also
All right,
ask
sweet.
the person you got the place you get the packaged bees from and see what they say.
Yeah, you
couple
know
years-
what? Where are we getting bees from this year? Now that
Brad's doing it
Brad?
again.
I can speak on that
He
if
is?
I may. Okay,
Okay.
can I?
Yeah, go Hank.
I been in touch with Brad, and he will make an announcement probably the second, third week in January.
Okay.
And the forms will be available probably on the Facebook page. And
cool.
he's holding off because he says he doesn't think we all know yet how many colonies we will lose. But usually by the end of January, we will all know what we need for next year. So yes, he's doing that.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Hank.
Right.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
Hank. That's good to know.
For the last couple of years, he's got them from Honeybee Genetics and Oliveras. And did he get them from Kernan's also, I think?
He
I can-
didn't
I can
say
look-
yet where he's
look
gonna
up
get
on
them
the
from.
steers.
He usually gets them from Honeybee Genetics first and then Conan's later.
Yeah.
What you got, John?
I just wanted to comment on the oxalic acid. A couple years ago, Randy Oliver was selling nucleus hives. He probably still does. And one of the local guys bought some. And when he picked them up, he told him, he said, as soon as you get home, you better treat these for mites. Okay, they just came off the almonds. They split them up and made the nukes. I think, yeah, I don't know how familiar you are, Tamsin, with oxalic acid. It doesn't penetrate inside the cells. So one of the reasons they say to go ahead and treat when you get these packages is all the mites are phoretic, and that's where it's going to be most effective if it's going to be effective. I've read some stuff recently that oxalic acid isn't all that effective in general. And if you read or saw Randy Oliver's presentation that somebody put on the Facebook page in the last couple months, that's part of the reason he's switching over to that. We call them Swedish sponges. I think they're just cheap little sponges that he soaks with an oxalic acid.
Exactly.
And he puts it in. He's gone away from the shop towels, and I'm not sure that where he is on the the spritz or whatever you want to call it.
The
But,
drip. The sponges he said were more effective, and I'm going to try those next. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm. He also recommends like an IPM strategy that utilizes different stuff throughout the year. The 08 drip was just like for the winter. That's why I used it.
Right.
It
That's
was,
basically the broodless time of the year.
mhm.
Yeah, remember what
Thank you,
his
John.
goal is. He's trying to develop a method. Well, first of all, he's trying to develop his own method. So something like vaporization is, I'm just guessing here, of a little less interest to him because it's not his invention. And so he may have a little motive to create his own system. And also his other motive is to create a system which persists in the hive during the time over a brood cycle. Whereas the vaporization is, kind of like you've got to keep doing it. So we're kind of rooting for him that he can develop. I remember when the shop towels came out, Janine and I did shop towel experiments, even made a slideshow on how to do it. But it kind of turned out to be a lot more problematical in our experience with it. And I think he probably found the same thing. One main problem was that if your hive isn't really
Right.
strong, you're just not going to shred those shop towels and actually do anything with them. But we're,
Mhm.
we're really, I'm really a fan of his, and he, there's no harm in trying something and then having it not work out well enough and then going on to the next thing. And he's very persistent. And those are the kinds of, he's the kind of person that is going to get results. So we're still really paying attention to what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm rooting for those
Cool.
sponges to be
Thanks, Dick.
effective
Thank you, guys.
because the oxalic acid vaporizer is not, you know, in my experience, you know, the best treatment because it has to be done repeatedly and it never does really knock out the mites thoroughly. There are some, that's because it doesn't penetrate the brood, the cat brood. It only gets the phoretic mites. And there may be some problems with it affecting the bee's ability to communicate when you do a vaporization.
I know that's right. That's what I read, and I was, yeah.
Right. Now, the oxalic acid dribble is great when you get package bees or if you get a swarm.
Mm-hmm.
You let them establish, and before they have cat brood, you can do an oxalic acid dribble.
Right.
But I'm still hopeful that we'll get the sponges that will, you know, be effective through the winter, because if we lived in a cold area, our bees would go broodless, and then it's effective to use a vaporization or the dribble for winter treatment. But here, our bees, you know, we have these warm Novembers and right into the first week of December. So oftentimes the queen is still laying, and you know, in a month's time, if the queen is actively laying in November, we get those high mite counts. And if you haven't been really on it with treating them with formic acid or something earlier, then you have a lot of dead bees in front of your hive, not because of pesticides.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Hope to do better next year.
Yeah.
I still got one hive. I'm just like rooting for them.
Well, one
check them
hive
out.
can easily become two, or possibly even
Awesome.
three.
Thanks. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And 2 can easily become 4.
I hope for the best.
Oh, yes.
In time.
I thought I had lost a hive or a colony, and because I had, you know, lots of foragers and population. Well, what do you call it? Lots of bees doing the cleansing flight and then coming home and orienting. Anyway, I popped open the one that wasn't active, thinking that I had to die out, but no, they're still in there. They just aren't as strong. But they were still, you know, yeah.
Hey guys, I'm gonna pass the host responsibility to Chris. I have to go.
Okay. Well, thank you for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Eric.
Yeah, you're
Thank you,
welcome.
Eric.
Hey, see ya.
Awesome.
Good night, Eric.
Okay, now we can have the fun. Yeah. No.
Well, we need to turn off the record button.
Still here. Oh no.
Turn off the record.
I heard that. Okay, I did it.
Yay.
All right, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, Eric. Thanks.
Got caught. That was not good.
Janine, did you want to talk about the pin stuff?
The pinning ceremony?
Yeah. Is that
Yeah,
on
well,
Sunday?
I've been waiting to talk with John.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
And
Could I ask a question that's technical here of Cheryl?
Sure.
There's a fellow named Matthew Soka has entered the waiting room, and I don't know how to deal with that. I told Eric I was incapable.
Okay, just move your mouse up there.
I don't have a mouse right now.
Oh dear. You have a touch screen?
I'm mouseless.
He's a rat.
Do you have a touch screen?
I have a finger. That's all. I'm on my iPad.
oh,
Oh.
You don't have a mouse of any kind.
SOS.
Well, is there, if you look on, is there button that says admit or? I
No,
don't-
he didn't transfer anything to me as far as I understand. Let me look here. I'm
You
sorry.
are the host.
That's okay. He didn't transfer anything to me either. I was kind of surprised he didn't give it to me, but
But Chris, you are the host. I see it very clearly on this.
Oh, okay, well, I don't know how to do this.
oh, here we go. Cheryl for me.
There's nothing on my iPad screen that helps me deal with that situation. I don't, even in the more section, it doesn't give me
Chris,
any
You
stuff.
could try transferring your hostly duties to Cheryl.
Yes, and how might I do
Yeah,
that?
Oh, never
go
mind.
down there and click on, see down on the bottom, it says participants.
Let's see, yes,
Okay, click on participants
yes, I got it.
and then see how it shows all those names up on the right.
Yes,
Okay, just find my name and say make co-host.
okay. Make host, there you go, you're it.
Okay, I'm it. Okay, and now there's,
Yay!
you are the host now, okay. Okay, you know, there's somebody in the waiting room.
Great.
Yes, somebody named Matthew Socho,
Matthew Socha, there we go. Oh, no,
at least that's what it came up on the thing. All you people get to see how terrific Eric is and Cheryl.
mute. Oh,
Well, so while we're waiting, I guess it's supposed to be nice on Saturday, at least
Yeah.
the weather app
yeah, I
said
can-
sun symbol, and so I'm planning on going out and popping the lids as soon as everybody's flying. I made the mistake of trying to pop the lid on a not so warm day, and they started just pouring out, and I was like, oh man, this is bad. So I put everything back and backed away. But I'm really hoping this weekend to be able to do mite count.
Yeah, that's
See what I
my,
can do
Yeah.
inside. I know they're bringing in pollen. There was a warm late after. It was like around 3 o'clock, maybe it was Sunday, I can't remember. And I
Do you
definitely
still-
saw pollen being brought in and orienting.
what color was the pollen that you saw?
It was a sort of a deep yellow, an orangey yellow.
Oh, I had some creamy colored stuff. I
Oh.
want to get one of those charts that tells what pollen in our area is
I was on the
associated.
side of the hive and zip up bee suit on, you know, everything. I was suited up with gloves and the whole 9 yards at that point because I knew it was too cold to be bothering them, but I did it anyhow. And they're better for it. There's more of them. There's less dead ones on the porch and more of them moving around, and they sound like they're buzzing around and they're good. And so I was glad I did it. We'll see on Saturday, right?
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what
It's
we
supposed to be
see.
50. Yeah, it's supposed to be 58 degrees over here at home, so I'll bet you it's gonna
Ooh,
be
that's-
warmer everywhere too.
Mary, what was the temperature expectation for Eureka?
Oh, I think it's in the 50s.
All right.
We've been totally snowed in. We just made our way out to town just yesterday.
I bet.
Yeah,
Neeland, oh my gosh.
yeah, we're up at 2,100
amazing.
feet. So
Yeah.
Amazing.
Hey, is Berry Road clear now?
it is. Yeah,
Awesome.
they plowed it, and plus it's rained a lot since then.
Okay, maybe Jory can get her stock trailer out now.
I have a scientific question that's been bothering me, and I probably should know, but maybe the master beekeepers, I'm just an apprentice beekeeper, but what causes the queen to start laying eggs? What causes it? Is it the temperature? Is it the daylight? Or what causes her to say it's time to get going?
The length of the days.
Length of the days.
Also,
It's like,
especially for the more carniolan types, it's availability of its pollen coming in, it's protein coming in.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, it is. It's not more because
Both of those things.
the Italians, they go all the
Oh.
time. If the weather is right, they will go and overproduce and probably starvation sets in unless you feed them. Whereas the Russians don't produce till they have enough pollen. The Russians are the late developer. So my Russian bees always late. So I think the pollen has something to do with it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, the Russians, Carniolans, and I think, what's that other ones? Caucasians are more pollen driven. The Italians are daylight driven,
Yep.
but their daylight thing as well. It's getting a little bit
Wow.
lighter, longer. They don't always go to zero, even when it's the shortest day.
Mhm.
But they definitely do crank up when the days get longer.
Yeah,
So
it-
I-
That makes
Combination
sense.
of influences and the a little bit of variation between the races, but both of those things.
yeah, I'm gonna switch.
Hmm.
I've been doing Canolians and Italians, but I'm beginning to like my Russians more. I think they're more hardy. The Italians, they will produce and they do good honey for me. And but I almost had 2 of them last year. I starved to death. I were able to catch them because they overproduce.
Yeah, you want Russians in the winter and you want Italians in the spring and summer. And so we're kind of hoping that the Saskatraz would have the best of both, but we're not quite sure if that's true.
Dick, have you had a lot of experience with the Saskatraz?
I've had some. I've ordered them for several years, and I don't think they did worse than anybody else. I'm kind of was rooting for them, so you might say that's a experimenter bias, but I didn't find them overwhelmingly better either. My queen attitude is I'd rather have Italians than Russians. This is me personally, because I'm not used to the Russian, we want to raise a queen all the time kind of thing in the spring and summer. And we would rather raise a queen than make honey. We would rather raise a queen. We've got several in the incubator all the time. I'm not got used to that, but other people have got used to that and they do okay with them. I guess my thinking is that the Italian weak spot is that they go all winter and then they eat all their food. But I can weigh my hives, I can lift the back ends, I can fix that. And since I like to sell nucleus colonies in the spring, I like Italians because they do have a lot of babies and I have something to sell. But having said all that, I like better than both of those, the queens that are raised locally, because I guess I'm kind of a believer that the local adaptation is more important than anything else. And I will qualify that by saying that some of the local raised queens, like most of my queens now, are local because they've swarmed or they've got swarms, and I would say they either work really well or they crap out in the first 6 months. And so if they stand the test of time, great, but they're not all great.
Does anybody else experience with the Saskatraz?
I would use them again, if they, and one of the other thing is that they are under active development. So my experience from 2 years ago might not be up to date. And so I would use them again if I need to buy them. I guess Oliveras is the source. I would do that. I would say they were good enough that if I needed a queen and it was a Saskatraz, I'd be happy.
I think Janine had this year. I see that her microphone is turned on now, so she can talk perhaps. But I've only had one, and she was a very sweet performer in the fall and flew away with the swarm late for beekeeping inattention disease. Here it was my fault.
They do that, so you can't draw any conclusions from that, except that she was good enough to make enough bees to make them feel like they wanted to swarm. And
Right,
that
it was too crowded.
Be able to swarm. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's a sign of productivity anyway.
And I had one that superseded. So now I have a locally mated queen from the Saskatraz.
So that could be even better. I mean, the fact is that we people with a few bees in our backyards and get a queen every so often, we don't have the statistics to be able to come to any real conclusions.
Right. That's very true. So I spoke with John.
Honey to queen, whichever one's handiest to get, I'm probably gonna say, fine, let's do it.
So let's see, we have Dick, Hank, Chris, and Mary. Did Mary leave?
Nope, she's here.
Okay. So will 1 o'clock on Sunday at the Cunell Apiary work for the penning ceremony for camp?
Sure.
Okay with me.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that works for me.
I'm gonna
What
get
is that? I missed it. I wasn't listening. I'm
They didn't call our names, Hank.
No, I called Hank's name.
Oh.
yeah. I was not listening. I guess I'm daydreaming.
I've got a pretty certificate and a really pretty pen for you
Okay.
that says that you're officially certified as a California Master Beekeeper, apprentice level.
Yes, you get to be surrounded by pretty girls who are gonna pin you.
I'll be surrounded with all my little bees, right?
Yeah,
ladies.
well, it's probably
This
gonna be
is-
kind of like you were in the entomology department. They're gonna stick a pin through you and put you up against a piece of
Okay.
plywood.
And this will be a masked event. If you don't bring a mask, I'll have masks there for you.
All right, sounds like a good safety factor,
Have you
since
got
Humboldt has a lot of Omicron or Omicron.
Okay, but we're going to be meeting outdoors.
I'm
Yeah.
standing upwind of Hank.
Okay.
So did you get a newspaper reporter?
In fact, I think you're supposed to wear either a N95 or a KN95 now.
Right. That's exactly
Or a
true.
garbage bag.
Oh, I guess Dick asked a question about, was that a real question? Is there's gonna be a newspaper reporter there? What?
I hope so.
Oh.
You don't know yet.
Wait. Okay. Is anyone doing the journey person level master beekeeping program? I don't know what to call
Are
it.
you going to do
Not the
it?
master beekeeping program. Yes, I think I'll sign up, but I need
Yay!
I'm gonna do it.
I need comrades here. Like, am I doing? Who else is doing this?
Did I hear Hank?
I'm
Anyone?
gonna do it.
I'm
Yeah,
still on the fence.
Hank, you
I'm
too?
still on the fence.
Do it, please.
My
Yes.
old brain, I'm
You
scared.
can do it. If you and Jason and I can do it, Chris, are you gonna do it?
I have too many.
Yeah.
Fire.
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip this year. I
Chris,
need
What
to.
about
chat up, Chris.
You guys, my internet's
Give your
my
chat up.
internet's crapping out really bad.
Okay.
Let's email each other. Like, you have my email, right? Because I'm in the group. Let's email each other about it.
And
Okay.
Right on. My internet,
Kelly.
it's been bouncing me off of Zoom. I love you guys. Thank you.
oh, Kelly,
Thanks
did you
for all
want
your help. Appreciate it.
Kelly? Did you
Yeah.
want to do the
All right.
master beekeeping?
Yes.
Well,
I do.
well then, I'll send you my email.
Okay, good. I have your email. I just
You do?
yeah, just send me yeah, I have your email because you were my teacher last year.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily have yours. So why don't you send me yours right now?
I sure will.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
I'll put it in the chat
Yeah.
right now. Okay.
This is being recorded.
Okay, personally, I'm kind of on the fence because I'm not ambitious to raise queens, and that's the thing that you would have to go to Davis to do. On the other hand, if some other congenial persons were in on it and we could take a trip to Davis and spend 2 days messing around with queens and seeing what they do there, I think that would be really interesting.
It's fun.
We need critical mass here.
That's right. Road
So
trips.
I guess I'm trending favorable. I'm not really worried about the academic part. I'm kind of like thinking about the way the class was for the apprentice level, and it's mostly rules and regulations that we aren't all that concerned with. But the beekeeping part, I'm kind of would like to see what they're going to do about the actual beekeeping part. I was kind of hoping for more with the apprentice level than a beginning book from 2007, and then they would not answer questions that I sent to them. I was kind of hoping for more of a here's the up-to-date beekeeping information, not here's the up-to-date bureaucratic information. So, and I looked at their journeyman materials last year, but they were, towards the end of last year, they were all from 2019, and they are proposing to update them, but I haven't looked to see if anything is updated. So I was my conclusion from last year was that it wasn't all that useful as a backyard beekeeper.
Well, with your 20 plus years of beekeeping experience, you're already at the master level. I think that's the issue for you, Dick.
Yeah, right. The question is, do I want
exactly.
do I want the piece of paper? Is that of any use to me? I've got other things to do. But I do think that a trip to 2 days at UC Davis, because whoever's been there, like Janine says, it's really interesting.
That was my favorite class.
Yeah, I think especially if some congenial persons were going along, and we can do a great ride, talk about bees the entire time, stop for, at every brew pub.
They'll probably even let me go for free if I promise to help.
Oh yeah, well, you'd have to go. Yeah.
Well,
I thought it was.
We were asking if for the bee class, if we wanted to list ourselves on their ads as master beekeepers, and I said, no, we're not master beekeepers. We're only, like, I'm an apprentice beekeeper, and Janine is a journeyman beekeeper. So we're not master beekeepers, but I didn't want to put on there, taught by these guys. They're just, apprentices. I mean,
well, Dick, there's a reason to go ahead and get your journeyman level.
Yeah, well, that's a
point. And then
that's a point. So sometimes these papers
also, it was really far out. I saw Eric's YouTube video of he and his wife did.
Yeah,
he and his wife did a YouTube video for his apprentice test.
Yeah,
and I thought that was really far out. So yeah, that's what I'm like, I can do that.
In this year's class,
yes, you can.
We'll talk about this camp program, towards the end of the class, and tell people how they can get into it. And we'll refer them to his video as an example.
Well, you know what? We're going to be talking about it before then, because the deadline or the application endpoint is February 28th.
February. Mm-hmm.
We'll mention it and we'll send them to the website. We're not going to go into great detail because these people are new beekeepers and they don't know what's what yet.
I have to sign off, you guys.
Okay.
This has been an awesome meeting, and I'll see you
on
Sunday. And
I will send you an invitation by email.
Bye.
Bye
Good.
bye.
Bye, Mary.
So now we're 9 from 30
Yeah,
or
I've
30.
got seven.
That
I've
was
got
one,
7.
that was one of our better attendants.
It was. It was.
That's great. I don't know what that is attributable to. Perhaps good advertising and
I
a
think-
great speaker. But we've had
think
great
better
speakers in the
advertising.
past.
I think
So-
better advertising.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Well, I've got
Janine, I'm a little on the fence about journeyman. Somebody said you can take 2 years to complete that. Is
Well,
that
of
true?
course you can.
How does
would
that
be-
work?
Well, you can take classes and study and, just take your time doing it. It's a process. You don't have to take the exam the year you begin.
Yeah, but I would forget it by the second year what I did in the first year.
Oh.
Then you have to review it. I mean, it's all about learning.
Yes.
And, that's hopefully the end goal is learning, not the pen. Although with Dick, it might be the pen and being able to write journeyman.
Oh, I got to remember, well, you've got to remember what answers they want. Anytime there's a test from a, organization like this, it's like they pointed out last year, they say, oh, what's the definition of honey? Well, we all know what honey is, but you have to write down all the right words. And that's the kind of stuff that probably Hank is worried about. It's the little bureaucratic things. Well, I guess what we learned last time is that you just have a little cheat sheet and you have all those, a little file on your computer, word processing file, and you just copy and paste all that stuff right in there.
Yeah,
But you do have to take the time to do that.
you do.
Yeah. And so
Well, I
then
thought the
makes-
journey, I thought that the apprentice program was helpful to solidify some fine points for me, because I haven't been teaching beekeeping classes for 20 years. So it was a helpful exercise for me to learn more specifically, that I have to sit down, study, and try to get this stuff to stick in my head. So I appreciated the concept for me as a backyard beekeeper.
Yeah, also, especially for our breadth of beekeeping, personage, is that even though this stuff is really oriented towards the Central Valley people, it's interesting to know what the Central Valley people are worried about. I mean, we never thought about sticking our names on our beehives or any of that stuff.
Right.
But the larger world of beekeeping is full of thieves and people who go to your bee yard and get stung and don't know where the nearest hospital is. So it's it's not bad to be aware that that's what the beekeeping world is like.
I concur. I think it was helping. It was fun getting together with the other beekeepers too. I think it strengthened our camaraderie.
John Winslow, he did a really good job at kind of grilling everybody and doing the little quizzes and poking and stuff like that. So,
right, I agree.
Not to mention Janine, although I guess I am mentioning Janine. Yeah, she was. Both of those two did that. It's like you just, the idea is you can't take it too seriously. It's not a matter of life and death. So the chances are that you're going to pass just fine, because even then you'll have a whole nother year of beekeeping experience, and lots of stuff, and you've probably got a plenty higher score than 70. And we don't even know what they're going to cover yet unless they've upgraded their website. So I'd suggest look at that, and let's see about it. If they're going to start teaching it in January or February, they better have that thing upgraded.
Janine, did you see the chat from Sherry Porter Keith?
Yes, but she left before I could respond to her that she wanted more information on the classes.
Mm-hmm.
And
do you, I don't have access to HCBA's email. Does
I don't either. I
Classes,
think that would be Mary and Eric.
okay, what classes is she talking about?
But I would certainly be happy to converse with her if I had her contact information.
Well, sometimes on the group emails that get sent out, you can open up the to section on the top and see who the people are. And sometimes their name is close to what their email address is. You might be able to
Yeah.
sleuth it that way.
Okay, I'll see if I can give that a try.
Yeah, and I'll give it a shot too.
So what classes is she talking about?
I don't know.
Yes, we don't know. Just
Okay,
classes. And she, what there, we did touch on the classes. So those,
Yeah,
I guess those may be the classes she's talking about.
we touched on them and for the most part, the people that attend here know about them.
yeah, you're talking about the HSU classes. That's what you touched on?
Yes,
Okay,
and
And so-
camp.
that information is on the Bee Club website right now?
And I sent the flyer to Eric so that he could post that on the website.
Okay. Yeah, okay, well, it's time, it's January, it's springtime.
I know it's kind of shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, daffodils
Yeah.
will be up.
I have to go, so it was nice
Me
talking
too.
to you all, seeing you
Okay,
guys, and
yes,
happy
yeah.
beekeeping. Let's hope more of my hives survive. More of my
Okay.
colonies, I
Me
should say.
too.
Yes, me too.
Hey. See you on Sunday.
Yeah, keep
Okay.
track of their
Good night.
food supply.
We'll see if my bees are still alive over there. I haven't been able to go over and check.
We could look, we
Okay.
could make it a
Bye.
check
Bye.
and a tinning or
It's
whatever.
8:05. I really only gave myself till 8 o'clock for this meeting.
All right.
Tell
So
me
unless you want me to make you host again.
No, I'm saying goodbye.
Okay. Oh, okay.
All right. Adios,
Okay.
everybody.
Okay.
Have a happy evening.
Yeah, have a good evening. Happy New
Bye.
Year.
You too. Bye.
Bye.